Sirach chapter 42, verses 9 to 10. A daughter keeps her father secretly wakeful, and worry over her robs him of sleep. When she is young, lest she do not marry. Or if married, lest she be hated. While a virgin, lest she be defiled, or become pregnant in her father's house. Or having a husband, lest she prove unfaithful. Or though married, lest she be barren. The 6 things that keep a father awake at night, according to Sirach: his daughter can be a burden that remains unmarried. His daughter can be rejected by her husband. His daughter can be raped before her marriage is consummated. His daughter can be pregnant before living with her husband. His daughter can become unfaithful to her husband. His daughter can be barren. Is he worried about his daughter?
Oh, yeah.
Who's he worried about?
His honor.
He's worried about himself, his honor. So let's go through that list real briefly, because I want to have a lot of discussion with these things. And you say, well, how does this have anything to do with Mary? Just wait. Just wait. Because you might not think of the Christmas stories the same way again. Why would the father, a Middle Eastern father, be up at night worried about whether or not his daughter gets married? Remember, who arranges the marriage? The wife arranged, the women of the village arrange the marriage. Okay, this is traditional. Who ratifies the marriage publicly? The father, right? But it's the women together in unison that arrange the marriage. And they can arrange unions that destroy the father. So the father is thinking, I'm at the mercy of both my daughter and my wife. I would love to make a union that would strengthen my family, but I know my wife privately is in charge of arranging the marriage. You remember Isaac's wife, Rebekah? Did she work in unison with her husband to help him? Or did she work against her husband? Remember that story between the 2 sons? Huh? Esau, the firstborn, and Jacob? Do you remember the Bible's joke book, Esther? No matter how wise and brilliant the men were, nobody was more brilliant than Esther. She literally tells her uncle, shut up, I got this, at the end of the book. Remember Judith, who cuts the head off of the guy and goes parading with the head on his sword? Remember that? Women are deadly as the way they're perceived in the ancient Mediterranean world and Middle Eastern world. Deadly. Where did death come from in the Bible? Through a woman, right? It's all the women together in a village who arrange the marriages. Say the father decides a particular fusion, the women can manipulate it so that it doesn't happen. So that's the first fear. I also like to, those of you who are into mythology, Greek mythology, look at Athena. Read the Odyssey sometime. Myth is that which will always be true and never happen. In the Odyssey, Zeus thinks he's the one coming up with all the ideas. So, oh, what a great idea. It's really Athena that tells him the idea. I'm so glad I thought of it, says Zeus. That's where we get that joke. Homer's funny. It's really Athena. The wisdom of the father. Zeus pater, Zeus father, Father Zeus. You know, like people pray, Father Zeus, help us, Father Zeus, please, Father God. Oh, wait a minute, I got my traditions mixed up. When Western eyes read Sirach chapter 42, verses 9 to 10, we tend to see the father concerned about, is my daughter cared for? Is she loved? Will she find a friend? Yeah. That's nothing of that nature at all. Or if she's married, lest she be hated. Remember Mary and Joseph And how Joseph realizes she's pregnant. He's the last one in the village to find out that she's pregnant. He's the village idiot. The last one to find out. How did they find out she was pregnant, Mary?
She didn't go to the bath.
How many baths are there in Bethlehem or Nazareth, wherever it is? Because in Matthew, their home village is Bethlehem, where they have a house.
One.
In Nazareth, their home village is Nazareth. Right, there's only one village bath, and there's only one village oven. So guess who's not showing up at the bath this month? So immediately the women go, why isn't she showing up at the bath? Or maybe she did try to show up at the bath and hide it, but it didn't work. What's the gossip network in the village? Prepubescent boys and the girls. They go spreading everything to everybody. Jesus says, suffer the little children to come unto me. What does he mean by that? I got nothing to hide. Children can go into every house, I got nothing to hide, let them come. Is that how you read that when you read that text?
No, but
Maybe you're reading it and hearing it with American ears and American eyes and American sentimentality. Hallmark cards, screen. Does Jesus want to heal the children too? Absolutely. Do children have a huge high mortality rate in that time of that part of the world? Absolutely. So yes, he is. That's there. But it's not, oh, I just love kids. Bring the kids over to me. Like I'm a big old Santa Claus. That's not what he means. He means I got nothing to hide. Let the kids come. Okay? So the kids would transmit it all around the village, which is about, 150, 200 people max. By the way, they're all first cousins because your ideal marriage partner in the Middle East is your patrilateral first cousin. Look at Saddam Hussein's marriage chart. So what does that mean, Joseph? St. Joseph's feast day, right? Who was he probably to marry? Patrilateral, probably first cousin. Are marriages self-selecting partners? Did Mary get engaged to Joseph? Okay, so let's get rid of that engagement nonsense. This isn't Downton Abbey. All right, let's get rid of that nonsense and let's put instead something culturally plausible. When they were young, their marriage would have been arranged, right? Maybe Joseph's marriage was arranged to her elder sister who died after having birthed several children. And there's James, Joseph, Jude, and Simon. That's one possible explanation. Cousin St. Jerome really doesn't work. Epiphanius of Salamis, your theory's better. They were half-brothers and sisters. Mary, the second marriage.
But they have the same name, Mary, both of them?
Mary, that's another thing about first names. We could go a whole night about that. First, how many people are named Mary in the Bible? You all are individualists, so am I. Individualists love to celebrate individuality. Are these people individualists or dyadic collectivistic personalities? Aha, they are, like all Mediterraneans. They're dyadic collectivistic personalities. They don't see groups as collections of individuals that at any time, see ya, I can opt out. Okay, whether it's church or whether it's the local club I go to or Weight Watchers or family. No, they see themselves as parts of the group. The group always comes first. That's how collectivists are. Understand that and you'll read Matthew 16 differently when Jesus says, who do people say that I am? That's not an American collectivist saying that. That's a dyadic American individualist saying that. That's a Middle Eastern collectivist saying that. The psychology is completely different.
You know, I've been asking about that brothers idea, so you kind of just explained it. Possibly they were half brothers.
Possibly, yeah.
Her sister that died in childbirth or something, and Mary was the second
Right.
wife and had one child. And
If you understand this, you can understand why it's ridiculous to suggest that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. Why would Jesus go marry somebody in Magdala? If he had a marriage, first of all, he doesn't go choose his marriage partner. Americans, it would have been arranged. By the way, if Jesus had questionable parentage and people doubted his father's identity, do you think any of the women in the village would want to get with Mary and arrange his marriage? Why would you want to bring shame to the house by somebody who's probably a bastard? I know. See, we got such piety, we don't even want to think about these things, but they're all over the Gospels. How many times Jesus get challenged in the fourth Gospel we call John, and in the Synoptic Gospels? Every time he's like, we know who your father is, Nazarene. How many times do they go that way? They go low with him like that? Many times. Because it was well known that she was pregnant early. Shameful, right? So here, in Numbers, there's two kinds of divorce in this part of the world at that time. There's the one where you basically, you say, look, she's not physically a virgin. You expose her to her father and her brothers, and her father and her brothers cut her head off, or humanely stone her to death, and remove the stain of shame from the house. And I'm going to tell you why that happens, as we laugh smugly as Americans. The reason why that's done is because if it doesn't happen, they're cut off from the village. No one will trade with them ever again. They will become refugees. They will starve to death. So they think of it, it's horrible, as a way of saving the family. And it goes on to this day. And it's not only Muslims who do this, by the way. You got to put yourself in the shoes of people before you judge them. It's abhorrent, okay? I don't believe in honor killings. But let's at least take people where they're at before we begin to say, oh, how barbaric and how... Understand their situation. Honor is everything there. But there's another way to do it that Numbers gives you. Well, you can divorce her quietly. That's a bad translation. There's nothing quiet in the Middle East. Divorce her leniently would be a better way. You have her go before the local clergy. He makes some mud drink, gives you a curse. You drink it. If she isn't really pregnant, then she'll be fine and she can be married again right after she gets done puking. It's a really horrible thing there. Women have to go through a lot of hellish things in these situations. But this is another thing that the man who is the father of a daughter has to fear about a potential happening.